Let's start here. Joburg Council Speaker Colleen Makhubele has adjourned the election of a new mayor till Friday. Councillors are in disagreement about who the new mayor should be. Earlier, the Gauteng Cooperative Governance MEC Mzi Khumalo said that if a mayor was not elected today, he'd have to intervene. eNCA's Pule Letshwiti-Jones joins us now. Good evening to you, Pule. So it's been a day of fruitless caucusing. Why has this not gone forward? What's gone wrong?
Yes. What? Yes.
Definitely. It seems as though the eNCA and the EFF and the minority parties from the opposition benches could not come to a conclusion in terms of a preferred mayoral candidate which they would present forward. This council sitting has been, of course, muddled by a lot of challenges since from the AMs in the morning, where we've had about 5 caucus breaks, one of which was a 3-hour caucus break as well, where one would have thought that parties could have come to a conclusion in terms of having their preferred candidates, but it seems as though that was not the case. Action SA was quite straightforward. Their candidate saying they'll be fielding in Funzi Ngobeni. The DA as well saying they'll be fielding in the former mayor of Johannesburg, Pule Letshwiti-Jones. But the confusion, though, came in from the ANC. It seems as though internally there was some sort of, challenges in terms of who do they support, either the current speaker, Colleen Makhubele, or Mr. Kabelo Gwamanda from Al Jama'ah. Of course, you'd remember that the former mayor of the city of Johannesburg, Thapelo Ahmad, as well, was from Al Jama'ah. So it seems as though those were the challenges, but the speaker then decided to adjourn council on the premise that she believes the councillors were not ready to proceed in terms of electing a mayor, because Al Jama'ah was on the brink of actually asking for another caucus break, which means we were not going to get to the point of electing a mayor, and this was going to be a huge blow for the residents of the city of Johannesburg. But joining us now, of course, is Michael Bowman from Action SA, who speaks to us this evening. Michael, thank you very much for talking to us. Just chat to us as the media colleagues here. What's the way forward right now? Quite disappointed as the mayor was not elected, but what's the way forward from your side?
I think we've got to be clear, and let us say it from the outset, that what has happened here is nothing short of a disgrace. The residents of Johannesburg have been saddled with a mayor from a party that had no coherent vision for Johannesburg, and it is questionable whether we've had a mayor for months now. And upon calling the council meeting at great cost to the residents of the city to elect a new mayor, and that meeting being called by these very same parties, they come here today and spend 8 or 9 hours calling caucus breaks. These council meetings cost over R500,000 to hold one council meeting, and most importantly, this is the economic hub of our country. There are 6 million residents in the city that are looking for certainty. There's service delivery failure across the board, and residents are looking for leadership. And right now, there's no one at the wheel. And it is unacceptable that the horse trading and the party wrangling that is going on within the ANC and EFF is continuing in this fashion. And it's unacceptable that they are willing to foist this level of instability on the residents of Johannesburg. They need service delivery. They need the fight against corruption to continue. And we can no longer continue paying the price for this ANC and EFF instability.
What happens now going back to the drawing board? Are you going to be opening talks once again with the DA? We know that was not fruitful. You released a statement in the morning saying it wasn't going to get to a point whereby the DA will be supporting your candidate. What happens now? Are you going to be approaching other parties as well?
Yes, certainly. So Action SA has been approaching many parties, including the DA, and we're not going to stop. We need to work with political parties who are like-minded. We need to collaborate towards the joint project of removing this ANC and EFF government. And if there could ever have been any doubt on the part of the DA or anybody else about the need to remove that government before today, look no further than the last 8 or 9 hours to see exactly why that must take place. The continued lack of leadership in the city cannot continue, and the DA and other parties need to get off the bench and into the game.
The Patriotic Alliance as well, are you also going to be chatting to them? Because we understand that it seems as though things might not be as positive for the ANC and the EFF as well, threatening to leave that alliance. Are you going to be reopening those talks with them?
Absolutely. We've been in continuous talks with the Patriotic Alliance, and we are in talks with other political parties that have been involved in that coalition, many of whom are deeply despondent about what has gone on here today, and many of whom are embarrassed. You can only imagine when you find yourself part of a grouping of parties that can't even get their act together to even have a council meeting to elect a mayor. How would they govern the city? And that's what those political parties are saying to us. And certainly Action SA will work with our partners. We don't work alone. We don't work unilaterally. We've worked so far with the IFP, the ACDP, the UIM and the Freedom Front Plus, and we will continue to expand that list until we have a majority that can sort out the city of Johannesburg.
Where's the technicality? Why can't you support the DA and do the right thing and have the mayor filled in and ensure that services are prioritized for the residents?
Well, certainly we've always been willing to support the Democratic Alliance in spite of the manner in which they have dealt with coalition partners. But the reality is that they've made a situation by their own actions. The Democratic Alliance has now collapsed 2 separate coalition agreements at the end of January and now at the end of April. And the reality is, even with the support of all of those parties we're currently working with, it is not enough. They will not have a majority. And that is why it is now falling to other political parties like the ones that I've mentioned to see if we can come together and form an arrangement that actually delivers on what the stated intention of this Moonshot Pact is. Because this Moonshot Pact that we hear about being spoken about in grandiose terms is a wonderful thing in theory. But here you don't have a theoretical ANC and EFF government, you have an actual one. Here is where we need to demonstrate how serious we are about removing and replacing those parties and not just talk about it.
Michael, just to hear from you, we see that you are struggling to work with the DA locally. You are talking about the Moonshot Pact for next year elections. How confident are you that you're going to be able to work with the DA? And the second question would be, the city manager has said that there's no problems in the city except for the political issues. What do you say about that? Because he said service deliveries has not been affected in any way, despite the political infightings. What do you say about the city manager's comments?
Well, let me start there. I spent 3 years working in Herman Mashaba's mayoral office here in Johannesburg, and I can tell you right now, the value of political leadership to service delivery is without any question. This is a city that has very difficult and complex challenges. Many of those challenges vastly exceed the budget to address those challenges. And in that environment, you need strong political leadership, because with all due respect to the city manager, no resident voted for him. He was voted for only by this council. What the residents need are people who they vote for to come in there and prioritise service delivery in a way that reflects the views of an electorate. And quite frankly, if you look around Johannesburg right now, there's no evidence to suggest that what the city manager is saying is taking place. I think residents in Johannesburg are desperate. They are not seeing service delivery taking place. And on top of that, there's compounding the problem when they see that there's no one at the wheel of the city. The city manager cannot lead the city, he must administer the city. And if no one's leading the city, the municipal officials are free to do whatever they please. And let's be honest, if you look at the track record of Johannesburg and the legacy of corruption in the city, that is not a situation that should be celebrated or made light of in any way.
And your confidence about working with the DA in the election?
Well, I think the strangest thing actually is that all the other parties that come together have basically started our work on the Moonshot Pact without the DA. I think that's the interesting thing. The point was made about us leaving the coalition. The DA left the coalition remained together. And I think in many ways there is a absurdity about announcing a Moonshot Pact with the intention of keeping the ANC and EFF out. And 2 weeks later, you renege on that commitment because it doesn't suit you, or it's a bit difficult, or it's a bit complex. You know, the leadership that is required to fix cities like South Africa and provinces like Gauteng, you know, it's not about when it suits you. It requires people to step up and do what's necessary, even under the most difficult of circumstances. And I think what's very pleasing is the political parties like the IFP, the Freedom Front Plus, the ACDP, the UIM, they have worked with us every step of the way, and they've been committed to that process. The Democratic Alliance is going to have to make a decision as to whether what is being said by the Moonshot Pact and their leader is their party position, or whether, you know, what their FedEx is saying is their party position. But they are in conflict with one another. There's a contradiction, and the DA is going to have to sort that out.
Okay, that's Michael Beaumont, Sally from Action SA, just giving us those discussions there just a few minutes after council had been adjourned. All these dynamics unfolding here in the city of Johannesburg. It'll be quite a complex situation going forward to see how Friday will unfold, particularly because the council speaker has adjourned the meeting to Friday, saying this is when hopefully a new mayor for the city of Johannesburg will be elected. But we continue to see the challenges around the coalition agreements. We saw it in the city of Tshwane, city of Ekurhuleni, Makhubele city, in the West Rand as well, and now in the city of Johannesburg. It clearly does show you that there is still a lot of challenges in regards to coalitions and, of course, residents bearing the brunt of these processes.
Absolutely. Pule Letshwiti-Jones, we're going to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for bringing us the very latest news, which is, in short, that there is no news. There is an inability to elect a mayor in Johannesburg. And now councillors have till Friday, but really what Michael Bowman of Action SA is saying, that this is an absolute disgrace and that many councillors themselves are deeply despondent and even embarrassed about what is happening. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. And now I'd like to